Hey guys, Field Guide here, back with you with another video. This is a book I picked up actually at a garage sale for, believe it or not, $1. I mean, I shouldn't say believe it or not, because just look at the binding right here of this book. This book has seen some stuff, maybe a war or two. More on that later, I should say. So this book is called The Pet Annual. Kind of a weird name for a book, but it has nothing to do with pets. And speaking of pets, I'm gonna let my little dog say hello. Hey, look at me. Huh? What do you want? Anyways, she just likes to hang around me, I guess. And do that. And beg. What are you doing? What are you doing begging? Huh? Yeah, she tends to do that, so we're just going to ignore her and hopefully she goes away. But anyways, The Pet Annual is a book written by children at a school in New York, and wait for it, the year is 1856. And that took me a long time to realize what the date was, because the date isn't in here. There's no copyright date of any kind, and a lot of books from the 1800s don't have dates like that. Something I didn't know until recently. But yeah, this book doesn't have a copyright date, but it is from 1856, and more on how I found that out as we dive into this book. I just want to say the damage on here, this electrical tape that's on in here, I did not do this, but it is holding the book together, so I'm kind of thankful for that. And as you see this right here, this dark shade in here, that's actually acid damage from something that someone put right here on this side. They put some more electrical tape right here, some black electrical tape, and they pasted in this article that has nothing to do with this book. They put this dark newspaper print in here, and then they electrical taped it in there, and it has nothing to do with the actual book. Anyways, moving on. That did quite a lot of damage. You can see it on this page, you can see it on this page, and you can see it on the back of this page. Anyways, something else I want to address is the foxing, or little spots that appear in this book. As you can see, there's spots here and here and here. That's called foxing. It's when the book is just old and bugs get to it and things. And something else I should point out is that this book was made very finely in the times. Like, you don't see a lot of books like with this in it besides the Bible, which is golden page ends. I don't know what they call that, but it's golden. As you can see in the light, it's golden. Anyways, back to what we were doing. Here's the title page, The Pet Annual, in this like old writing. Almost looks like a Western kind of theme, but that's just the writing from back then. And yes, more electrical tape holding this book together. I did not put that there. I wouldn't put that there. It just brings the value down of this book down. And up here, we've got this beautiful lithograph of, it's called From the First Dawn of Reason in Mina. I'm not sure what that's about, but this is just a beautiful lithograph that there's more of them in the book, and I'm just going to have to show you all of them. But as you can see on this page, there's this little thinner page that covers that up to protect it from damage of any kind. And there's quite a bit of foxing on that piece of paper. It's just crazy how much there is on there. But on this next part is this kid all dressed up in the snow on this antique sled going down this hill, and his books are just sitting on sitting in the snow beside him, but he's going down this hill, and I just thought this was beautiful. It's a beautiful scene. You can see another boy in the background pulling his sleigh up the hill, or his sled on the hill, or sliders, or whatever you call them. I call them sleds here in Michigan, but I know that other people from different states call them different things. But there's a beautiful scene there, and then way down here in the bottom, there is buildings, not very well drawn, but near that is other kids playing in the snow. So this lithograph is just full of so much detail and everything. And the pet annual is up there again, and it has, you're probably going to say sooner or later, why isn't he wearing gloves? Why isn't Field Guy wearing gloves when he's handling this ancient book? Well, the answer to that is pretty simple. I don't have gloves. So this is just what we're going to have to do. So, the Pet Annual, a gift for all seasons. Full of a gem of purest ray serene. A dark, unfathomable caves of ocean bare. Full of many flower is born to blush unseen, and waste is the sweetness on the desert air. By Edward B. Fellows. Just a little poem in the front of it, and this was published by Levitt and Allen in New York on 379 Broadway Street. So a really ancient street, Broadway Street. I mean, Broadway's been there since 1700s at least. But that's what it says, I guess. So this is a book written by school kids, and you can see a list of their names right here, the contents. So The Rescue, Spring, The Planet Neptune, which actually led me to figuring out when this book was printed. I read about the discovery of the planet Neptune, and that's what he's writing about. Cornelius Meeker is writing about in this book. They just picked subjects around the time frame, like current events, like the discovery of the planet Neptune, and I just decided to look up when that happened, and it was like 1840s or something. So I was just putting this book around that time period. So the only way I figured out how old this book was, because it doesn't have a copyright date, is from the New York publisher Levitt and Allen. They only printed books on this street, 379 Broadway, for 1 year, and that was in 1856. But for some reason, I decided not to look up the publisher right away. I just decided to look at the stories. I mean, some of these kids are writing about some dark subjects here. But the planet Neptune, thoughts on time, the suicide, I mean, dark topics. Flowers, that's not so dark. On war, and then someone wrote about liberty, distress for rent, the prize, the sun, farewell to school, printing, April, the burning bush, so some biblical things in there. The young wanderers, France, a republic. Now that one is an interesting one. William Blair was writing about how America is the grand republic and it's so great and America's amazing, and how France wants to become a republic just like the United States, and it hadn't been at the time. So he wrote about that, and so that was a interesting one that I read. Maybe one day, if you guys like this video, I'll read some of those to you, to the camera, to all of you in the audience. Mercy, Letter on the News, Life and Adventures of the $10 Piece. Maybe we'll read that one, because that one's coin related. The Schoolmaster to W.M.B. Bradbury. The Vacation in Common Schools sonnet. Adventures of a Cloud. The Recognition, On My Lost Bird. So the book just goes on and on, but all of these are short stories within the book, and it's really rather interesting. For a book to be this old and to survive for this long and not being of much importance. So here we got The American Boy, The Human Body, The Good Samaritan, School, The Science of Numbers, Knowledge is Power, Parting from a Friend, Moonlight, Visiting My Grandmother, Dissolution of the Union, I haven't read that one, but it sounds like something to do with the Civil War. I know this was quite a bit before the Civil War broke out, but maybe that has to do with it. I haven't read all of these, but I've read some of them, and they're really, really interesting. These student writers back then, they wrote quite well. We've got Life at the Water Cure Retreatment. So water cures back then were really popular. People hanging out in natural springs. So that's probably about that. I actually haven't read that one, but all these stories are just really, really interesting. Nature and Her Works, Impertinence, or otherwise known as Alcoholism. Someone wrote about that. Hope, Escape from the Wyoming Massacre. So the Wyoming Massacre, that was another historical event. So someone wrote about that. I haven't actually read that one, but all these were like helping me track down the date of this book, and I should have just looked at the publisher and figured out when they were printing books. Then I could have found a date. But it was more interesting. It was more of a puzzle and a challenge to look at it this way. So that's what I did. Anyways, what else are we reading about? Farewell to Earth, Hypocrisy, Tombs, The Haunted House, Honestly, The Trio, Beware of Temptation, Clarity, Obedience, The Mother's Death, Beauties of Nature, Exercise. I would like to read that one. The State of New York, History as a Study, A Christmas Dream, A Stretch of the Western Life, Teaching of History, The Death of Two Firemen, The Dying Girl's Farewell, The Orphans, Thoughts, and A Trip Up the Hudson. And then we've got, on this side, we've got illustrations. What are you barking at? Shh. Shh. Anyway, guys, I'm going to have to cut it here, I guess, but yeah.